Hi there. My name is Stephanie Baldanzi, and I will present a summary of the Beck scale for suicidal ideation. Aaron T. Beck, together with others, saw that there were assessments for people who had already attempted suicide, but there was not an assessment for people who were thinking about attempting suicide ideators. The goal was to create a tool that would help mental health professionals spot and assess the condition of people who currently have plans and wish to commit suicide, but have not yet made a recent attempt. In theory, this would help prevent the trauma of a suicide attempt and enable care, as well as avoid a successful suicide. The development of the scale focuses on the different suicidal intent variables relevant to suicidal ideators, including, for example, nature of the suicidal wish, extent of planning, and other factors. Given that Beck created this test over 40 years ago, there have been plenty of studies of the reliability and the validity of the test. With regards to concurrent validity, at inception, there was a low correlation between ideation and other measures of self-harm from other assessments. Discriminative validity also showed significant measures. Now, at inception, Beck, Kovacs, and Weissman assessed concurrent validity, discriminant validity, and construct validity. Concurrent validity showed a low correlation between ideation scores and other measures of self-harm from other assessments. Discriminative validity also showed significant gaps between group differences. For construct validity, the studies worked with additional data from the hopelessness scale and the Beck depression inventory, and they showed significant correlation for depression and less non-significant correlation with hopelessness. Now, over time, the reliability and the validity of the overall assessment, as well as the subscales in particular, have been confirmed. Additionally, the retest stability has also indicated moderate reliability. Now, if we turn to the format and administration of the test includes 19 items, each of which consists of 3 statements with different levels of intensity, rated from 0 to 2, with 0 being the lowest and 2 being the highest. There are 3 parts. The first part focuses on the patient's feelings towards life and death and asks a series of questions in that regard. The second part focuses on the aspects of suicidal ideation. And the third part asks questions which focus on previous suicide attempts. Within the test, there are 2 subscales. One is questions that target lethal intent, and 1 questions that target planning. Throughout the 19 items, the lethal intent, 6 of those items and focus on lethal intent, and it is largely subjective. Planning consists of 8 items, and that deals primarily with the objective aspects of planning. Now, for the administration, typically a clinician working with the patient will complete the assessment, and it can be done either in a good old paper and pencil or on a computer or a tablet. Now, for each of the 19 items, the patient will select one of 3 responses, and each response has a varying level of intensity. The possible total scores of all 19 items range from 0 to 38, with the higher scores reflecting a greater severity assessment. The test can readily be scored by the clinician. Now, if we look at issues such as ethical and cultural issues, right? The population that is best attuned to this test, according to the Medical Measurement Yearbook, it states that the test is appropriate for use with English-speaking populations of average intelligence. Please note, it does present a concern about using this test with adolescents, and given the rise in suicide, particularly suicidal ideation among adolescents, we should be careful about using this test in that regard. Finally, given that the assessment focuses on a mix of objective information, there's a degree of self-reporting included in the test data. Clinicians are advised to be aware of concerns about concealment of information or misleading information from suicidal ideators. And in that regard, when we turn toward the cultural and ethical issues, if there are cultures which view suicide as shameful or as a mortal sin or in some other manner which would limit the likelihood that a patient would confide in anyone, including a therapist, the therapist should take special care. For example, within some religions, taking your own life is a mortal sin, and it would result in significant negative consequences. The patient might not be willing to voice the suicidal ideations at all for the fear of the consequences as a result of their religious beliefs. So creating a safe and judgment-free therapeutic relationship where the client can voice these concerns will be paramount. The same would hold for any other cultures which may view suicide in such a manner. Now, as for the ethics, one struggle that I expect, particularly when working with young adults in that range from 18, let's say, into their early 20s, officially, they're adults, and there's no obligation to share information with caregivers such as parents or other guardians. However, I expect that any analysis would have to be an ongoing exercise of the client's journey and working with that client for how can we best share information with your caregivers, your parents, your guardians, the people who work with you to keep you safe. Regular discussions with other clinicians to assist in meeting this ethical concern while protecting the therapeutic relationship and that alliance would probably be highly recommended. Thank you.